Have you ever noticed that at the beginning of a relationship, everything feels like a movie? He's putting in effort, planning dates, sending sweet texts, making you feel like you're the most important person in his world. And then, somewhere along the way, something shifts. The effort fades, the calls slow down, he stops trying the way he used to, and suddenly you're left wondering, did I do something wrong? Does he not care anymore? Or worse, is he losing interest? In this video, we're going to dive deep into why men stop trying, the psychology behind their withdrawal, and most importantly, the exact steps you can take when this happens. Start with the very first question that's probably on your mind. Why does a man stop trying in the first place? Because if we don't understand the root of the problem, we'll keep trying solutions that don't work. So let's break it down. Why does a man stop trying? Why does someone who once moved mountains to impress you suddenly feel like he can barely send a text back? There are 3 core reasons, and understanding them will completely change the way you respond. In the beginning, a man is in pursuit mode. He's motivated by the challenge, by the unknown, by the feeling that he has to earn you. But over time, comfort sets in, and while comfort can feel good, it also kills effort if it's not balanced with appreciation and respect. When a man feels like you're already his, he may unconsciously think, I don't have to try as hard anymore. It's not always malicious, it's human nature. We all slow down when we feel like the job is done. The problem is, in relationships, when he feels too comfortable, he forgets that effort is part of love, not just the chase. Men thrive on feedback. If his effort once made you light up and now it just feels expected, or worse, unnoticed, he may subconsciously stop trying because he doesn't feel the reward he once did. Imagine working hard at your job, but no one acknowledges your results. Eventually, your motivation slips. In the same way, when a man feels like his effort doesn't land the same way, he may stop giving it. This doesn't mean you're ungrateful, it just means the feedback loop has shifted, and he's no longer motivated in the same way. Sometimes, it's not about you at all. Men can withdraw when they feel overwhelmed by life, work, or even their own inner struggles. Instead of communicating, they retreat. And unfortunately, when a man retreats, it looks like he's not trying. Maybe he's exhausted, stressed, or questioning his own direction in life. The problem is, women often interpret this as rejection, and that's where the chasing begins. But in reality, his pullback could be about him, not about you. The danger comes when you chase, because that makes him retreat even further. Now here's the key. When you understand these reasons, you stop taking his lack of effort so personally. You stop thinking, if he really cared, he'd never slow down. Because the truth is, even men who care deeply can slip into comfort, lose motivation, or go through phases of withdrawal. The difference between relationships that survive and those that fail comes down to how the woman responds in these moments. Do you chase and overcompensate, or do you lean back and respond with strength, creating the space for him to step up again? In the next section, I'm going to reveal the most common mistakes women make when men stop trying, and why these mistakes, though well-intentioned, almost always backfire. If you've ever found yourself over-explaining, over-giving, or trying to fix his lack of effort, this next part will hit home. All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room. When a man stops trying, most women panic a little inside, and it makes sense when the energy shifts, when his effort drops. Your security in the relationship feels shaky. So what happens? You try to fix it. But here's the problem. The natural ways women try to fix it are usually the very things that push him further away. When he slows down, you speed up. You text more, you ask when you'll see him next, you remind him of the way things used to be. You maybe even bring up, remember when you used to do this? But instead of pulling him closer, this makes him retreat further. Why? Because men value what they work for. The moment you start working harder than him, the balance shifts. He no longer feels like he's investing in winning you. He feels like you're investing in winning him. And the truth is, that kills his motivation. This one comes from such a good place. You think, if I give more, love harder, do more for him, he'll see my value and step up. But here's what really happens. The more you give without him matching it, the more he gets used to taking. It sets a new standard where he doesn't have to try. This one hurts because it's so common. You tell yourself, maybe I'm expecting too much. Maybe it's okay that he doesn't try as hard. At least he's still here, right? But lowering your standards doesn't make him step up. It makes him step down. The less you require, the less he gives. And before you know it, you've trained him that bare minimum is acceptable. Now, I want to pause here because none of these mistakes come from weakness. They come from care. They come from wanting the relationship to work. But just because the intention is good doesn't mean the strategy is effective. The truth is, the more you chase, give, explain, or lower your standards, the less he feels compelled to rise. It's human nature. What's freely given loses value. What's earned is cherished. So if chasing and overgiving don't work, what does? How do you actually inspire a man to step up again when he's stopped trying? That's what we're diving into next, the exact steps you need to take to flip the dynamic back in your favor without begging, pushing, or losing yourself in the process. Okay, so now that we've covered what doesn't work, let's flip the script. What actually works when a man stops trying? How do you inspire him to put his best foot forward again without begging or lowering yourself? The answer lies in shifting your energy from chasing him to standing firmly in your value. The instinct when his effort drops is to instantly fill the gap, text him, ask for plans, lean in more, but the power move is to do nothing at first. Pause, breathe, give space. Why? Because that gap you leave creates tension, the kind that makes him notice the shift. It makes him realize, wait, she's not chasing me, she's not overcompensating, did I just lose something? That awareness alone often sparks his effort back to life. If he sends one-line texts, stop sending novels. If he's taking 3 days to call, don't keep calling him daily. This isn't about playing games, it's about alignment. You're showing him, I'll meet you where you're at, but I won't overextend myself. And when a man realizes he's no longer being carried by your effort, he feels the gap. And that gap either wakes him up to step forward or reveals that he was never willing to in the first place. Either way, you get clarity. Instead of pouring all your attention into fixing him, start pouring it back into your own life. Spend time with friends, invest in your passions, move your body, upgrade something about your life that makes you feel radiant. Men are drawn to women who glow, not because of him, but because of herself. And here's the kicker. When he sees you thriving without chasing, he's reminded of the woman he first fell for, the one who had her own gravity. You don't have to explain every detail of what you need. Sometimes the strongest statement is made in what you don't say. When his behavior doesn't meet your standard, instead of arguing or over-explaining, let your silence do the work. Silence isn't passive, it's powerful. It forces him to ask, why has her energy changed? What shifted? And that question is far more motivating than another lecture. Step 5, hold your standard without apology. This is where women often struggle because it feels risky, but the truth is, your standards are what separate the men who are serious from the men who are not. If you want a man who tries, you cannot keep rewarding him when he doesn't. Hold the line. If he doesn't rise, then he shows you who he is. And yes, that can be painful, but it's also freeing, because now you're not wasting your time investing in someone who isn't willing to invest in you. Here's the beautiful part. When you make this shift, one of two things happens. Either he steps up because he remembers that the relationship requires effort, or he steps out because he was never truly in. Both outcomes serve you. One reignites his best, the other clears space for someone better, and both protect your dignity. So the next time a man stops trying, remember this, your job isn't to chase him back into effort. Your job is to step so fully into your value that he either rises to meet you or makes room for someone who will. All right, so now you've shifted your energy, you've stopped chasing, you've pulled back, and you've redirected focus to yourself. But here's the million-dollar question. How do you know if it's working? How do you test whether he's actually coming back with real effort or just giving you sweet words to keep you hooked? A man might say all the right things, I've just been busy, I'll try harder, I do care about you. And while those words sound nice, they mean nothing without action. If you want clarity, you must stop being hypnotized by promises and start paying attention to patterns. When men feel you slipping away, some will make a dramatic gesture, flowers, a passionate text, a sudden push to see you. That can feel flattering, but don't let one grand move erase weeks of neglect. The true test is whether his effort continues once the moment passes. Does he call again tomorrow? Does he keep showing up a week later? Because love isn't proven in the fireworks, it's proven in the rhythm. A man who's truly hooked will show effort despite being busy, tired, or stressed. He'll find a way. On the other hand, a man who only offers excuses reveals his priorities. If every conversation ends with, I just don't have time right now, then he's showing you he doesn't value you enough to create space. Watch his actions. If the excuses outweigh the effort, the truth is right there. Healthy relationships are built on mutual investment. So ask yourself, is he meeting you halfway? If you plan a date, does he plan the next one? If you send a thoughtful message, does he ever mirror that energy? Reciprocity doesn't mean 50-50 in every moment, but it does mean he's not simply coasting on your effort. If the relationship feels like a one-way street, that's not love, that's dependence. Effort isn't just about physical actions, it's about emotional engagement. When you talk, is he actually listening? When you share something important, does he remember it later? A man who's hooked is tuned in. He's not just checking boxes, he's invested in your inner world. If you feel invisible when you're next to him, that silence speaks volumes. One of the most powerful tests is how a man responds when you set a standard. For example, if you say, "I need more consistency," does he roll his eyes and call you needy? Or does he lean in and actually try to meet that need? A man who respects you will take your boundaries seriously. A man who just wants comfort will try to guilt you into lowering them. His reaction reveals everything. Here's the bottom line, a man's true feelings are always revealed in his behavior. Words are easy, promises are easy, but effort, consistent, reliable effort is what separates the men who are truly hooked from the ones who are just passing time. So if you want to know whether he's still invested, don't chase after his reassurances, watch his actions, measure his effort, because in the end, love isn't proven in what someone says, it's proven in how they show up when it matters. Up to this point, we've been talking about what to stop doing and how to read his actions. But now, let's flip to the part that's the most exciting and honestly the most transformative, because the real secret isn't about him at all. It's about you. It's about reclaiming your value and stepping back into the kind of feminine energy that naturally inspires men to step up. When a man stops trying, it's easy to make it mean something about you. You start questioning your attractiveness, your desirability, your enoughness. But here's the truth, his inconsistency doesn't define your worth, it defines his capacity. And when you anchor yourself in that belief, you stop spiraling into self-doubt. You realize my value isn't up for debate. It doesn't shrink because someone else stops seeing it. Remember who you were before this relationship started. What lit you up? What made you magnetic? When women shift into chase mode, they often lose sight of their individuality. They orbit around him instead of their own lives. But here's the empowered alternative. You become the woman who lives so fully in her world that he has to earn his place in it. That doesn't mean being cold, it means being full of passion, joy, curiosity, and self-expression. Feminine energy isn't about seeing back helplessly. It's about being open, receptive, and grounded in your natural magnetism. It's the opposite of chasing. Instead of pushing, proving, and overperforming, you lean back into presence. You let your confidence, your calm, and your warmth draw him in. And here's the paradox. When you stop chasing and step into your feminine energy, a man often feels more inspired to pursue you than ever before. True empowerment isn't just about being radiant, it's about being unshakable. That means you don't lower your standards to keep him. You don't accept breadcrumbs when you deserve a feast. Boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. They filter out the men who aren't serious, so the ones who are can come closer. And when you enforce them with grace, not anger, not desperation, but calm self-respect, you send the strongest possible message. I know my worth, and I will only entertain someone who does too. Instead of asking, how do I make him try again? Ask, how do I want to feel in love? That's the empowered woman's question. Do you want to feel safe, cherished, desired, supported? Then every interaction becomes a test, not of your worth, but of whether he can provide those feelings. If he can, wonderful. If he can't, then your story isn't about chasing, it's about choosing better. Here's the magic. When you shift into this energy, you stop fearing the loss of a man's effort because you know your own. You know you're not dependent on his attention to feel valuable. You become the woman who doesn't need to chase because she is the prize. And when you show up in that energy, men either rise to the occasion or they fall away. Both outcomes serve you. So the empowered alternative is simple. Instead of wasting your energy trying to get him back, invest that energy into reclaiming yourself, into becoming so rooted, so radiant, so magnetic that the right man, whether it's him stepping up or someone new entirely, has no choice but to pursue you. So let's zoom out for a second. We've covered a lot in this video: why men stop trying, what not to do, the shifts that actually work, how to test his response, and how to step fully into your empowered energy. But here's the ultimate takeaway. The answer is never to chase. The answer is to attract, to live in such a way that the right man is drawn to you naturally, while the wrong man quietly eliminates himself. When he stops trying, chasing him, only pushes him further away. Crunches. His inconsistency doesn't reflect your worth, it reflects his capacity. The real power move is to step back, match his effort, and let the silence speak. Ronch's actions, not his words, reveal his true intentions. And most importantly, your energy is best spent not in convincing him, but in becoming the kind of woman who doesn't need to convince anyone. Stop asking, how can I get him to want me again? And start asking, how can I show up as the fullest version of myself with or without him? Because the truth is, love that lasts doesn't come from strategy or games, it comes from alignment. It comes from two people who both want to invest, both want to build, both want to keep choosing each other. When a man is truly hooked on you, you'll feel it. You won't have to guess, you won't have to beg. You won't have to shrink yourself to hold his attention. You'll feel his consistent pursuit, his desire to make you happy, his willingness to meet you in the middle. And until you have that, anything less is just noise. You are not too much. You are not asking for too much when you expect effort, consistency, or care. The right man will see your standards as a reflection of your value, not a burden. And the wrong man will see them as pressure because he was never capable of rising to them in the first place. You attract, you glow, you invest in yourself, you build a life so fulfilling that any man who wants to be part of it has to bring his best. And you remember that losing a man who stopped trying is not a loss, it's a win. It's proof that you refuse to settle for less than you deserve. Here's the image I want to leave you with. Imagine yourself walking through life as the prize, not the pursuer. Men will come and go, some will try hard, some won't. But the one who is meant to stay will never leave you wondering. He'll try, he'll show up, and you'll know deep down that you never had to chase him because he chose to chase you. So the next time you feel that panic, that urge to chase after a man who stopped trying, pause, breathe, remember your worth. And instead of running after him, turn back to yourself. Because when you honor your value, you'll either reignite his best or you'll make space for someone even better. And in both cases, you win.